off.
Sure.
All right, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this month's DevTest Community Webcast titled What's New in C Application Test 8.0.2. We're joined today by Arif Mohammed, who's going to take us through a presentation and a demo. Please remember that if you have any questions along the way, please use the Q&A functionality in the WebEx session. If you're not seeing the Q&A box, click on the question mark icon in the upper right of your screen. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Arif.
Thank you, Len. Good morning, everyone. What I'm going to do is actually, I know 8.2 is a bit late because we kind of released it back in April and May, but we thought that it's better to actually present that instead of not doing it at all, because we have many exciting things actually happen from a test perspective in 8.1 and 8.2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick overview of what was actually delivered from application test perspective as part of these two releases, and then I'm going to show you a few of those features basically through a demonstration. So let's jump into the capabilities we added in 8.2 and 8.1. As you can see in 8.0, we actually started the capabilities provided through DevTest Portal to make it easier for you to actually execute test cases and look at what happened to the execution of the test as well. There are many more usability enhancements which we have added in the DevTest Portal for these two releases. To name some actually is that being able to globally define as a user preference that which project is your default project, so that when you go in and see the test and test suites, you don't have to always keep switching the projects as well. Then we also added the capability where you can actually go through and look at all the test cases across projects. So it's a single view across the projects as well. Then through the DevTest Portal now you can actually also create a project, which was basically before allowed only through the workstation. And then the major item we actually added in this release is actually ability to select configuration at the time of execution. In 8.0, when you were actually executing a test case, it was not giving you an option to choose a config file or staging document. With this release, we actually gave this ability, so that way, as an administrator, you can actually set up, or the test owner, you can set up different configurations against different environments, and then when the user is actually coming onto the portal and want to execute the test case, they can actually choose which environment to execute against by selecting a particular configuration. And also through the staging docs, you can also choose whether you want to run it for performance or load testing as well. So that's those are major enhancements from our portal perspective. On the web UI testing side, front actually we did start supporting actually Safari browser, which was not supported before. We also added the screenshot display onto the UI test results. So when you are seeing the test results inside the portal, you can actually now also see the screenshots which were captured when the test was actually getting executed for each step. Moving on to making it easier for you to actually create test cases. Some of the area from API perspective, in 8.0 we started JSON related work. We extended that a little bit here. As you know, in 8.0 there was a new assertion added, which was basically equal assertion, so result equal assertion that allow you to compare two values, two JSON values. In this release, we actually added the ability for you to ignore some of the elements out of that, and I'm going to demonstrate that as well. So when you're comparing two JSON JSON object, and let's say there is one attribute, for example, a timestamp, and you know that that timestamp is going to be changing all the time anyway. So you want to ignore that, but you want to make sure everything else is exactly the same. So we added that ability for you to so you can set or configure a rule so that the timestamp will be ignored when the comparison is happening. Event handler capability, we used to have that, but there was through only code. So basically through the code you could actually create a jar file that actually allow you to register for an event which is happening as the test is being executed, so that you can use that to either log into whatever the other logging system you want to use, for example, write to a database so that you can actually have your own specialized kind of reporting, or log to another file or something. So before that, you had to kind of either write the code to inject those events or event handlers, or you actually had to go every assertion and basically kind of call after the assertion kind of call a step. So with this release, we added the ability for you to do this without the code and through companion, and I'm going to demonstrate that as well. The last thing in this area we actually did is from a data loading perspective. As you know, we had the capability to load a data file, but the name of the file was kind of constant. You can have those files to be dynamically loaded at the runtime. So in this release, what we did, we added the ability for you to dynamically load the names of the files from somewhere, so maybe a directory structure, and then all the files, and traverse through all the files and read the data from those files as well. So that that capability would let you be a little more dynamic in your tests when you're actually reading through your file and inputting the data into your test scripts. On the integration side, we actually certified ALM version 12 with our ALM/QC integration. Mobile testing front, we actually added few extra capabilities as well. One of the things we did was that to expose WebDriver as an object, so that you can use the WebDriver object to script Appian. So if you need to do some custom kind of scripting from an Appian perspective, WebDriver perspective, now you have the ability to do that since you have the access to WebDriver, and within the step you can actually create a script that actually accesses that WebDriver object which we exposed, and hence allow you to execute any of the steps of Appian-related WebDriver methods, basically, within that. On Voyager side, we actually did 3 major improvements in that. One is basically when you are executing the Voyager, now you can actually select an asset as a target, just like for any other mobile test scripts, basically. So that way it's actually all the configuration about which application and which platform it would be executed, that's all encapsulated inside the asset. So even for Voyager now you can use that asset to execute the test against, or execute the Voyager application against. We also, from a secure application perspective, added the capability where when the application in the beginning actually prompt for credentials, like username and password, for example, you can actually pass that on so that Voyager can move forward into the next pages, because otherwise if the Voyager was kind of stuck in the first page where the login was happening only, because it needs the further going into the application requires the username and password. So we added that capability. Also, we understand that as you go from one screen to the other screen within Voyager, and whether it's traversing through your application, there are mandatory fields which need to be passed on to the form, and we actually added the ability for you to be able to do that through the data set. So you can actually configure data sets, and within the data set, you can actually say when you actually look at when this particular form shows up inside, pass these values to different fields as well. So with all these, what we are trying to do is we are trying to make it easier for Voyager to traverse through your application so that it can capture all different objects and bring it into the object library within application test, so that it's easier for you to be able to actually create new steps or test scripts actually from a mobile perspective. We also added or certified Xcode 6.2 and iOS 8.2 as part of this release, and also within a test script, you have multiple obviously steps in there, and now you can actually easily change the target for all the steps quickly. Before you kind of had to go every step and change them, so now we actually added the ability to change that quickly. So those are the kind of high-level overview of the things we have done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the demonstration, and I am going to share my desktop. While I'm doing that, if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions on the right-hand side window. Okay. All right, so first from a DevCast portal perspective, so I'm going to log in here. Once you log in, one of the features we talked about from a usability perspective we added is this preferences, where you can actually select your default default project in the list here as well. So if let's say you work on a particular project more often, and you would want that project to be your default project. Another way, which basically right now is a default way, which also works, is we automatically save the last used project. So that way, whatever the project you worked on the last time is what is going to be saved here. So this is one of the user preference there. Then on the manage page, if you see, we have added this all resources capability that actually gives you to look at tests and test scripts and suites and all different virtual services across your projects as well. So that way you have a view across your projects as well on that, and obviously there's filter and sorting capability on this view as well. So sometimes it's easier to traverse through the Web Hub content actually through this new capability. Now, on the test execution side, we talked about, let me give you a quick example of, let's say, this particular test. Before we had only run option. With this release, we have run with options. In here, as you can see, a lot more information is available now. So obviously these are two, you can change them. These are the name of the test and what is the test case. But you can actually now select a configuration file, and let's say during the selection you actually want to see what is inside the configuration file. You can change it, but you want to see it, so you can click on this, and this would actually allow you to see, as you can see in this particular case, the endpoint is there, so you can actually see what this configuration is about, and then you can choose different configuration if you want to execute the test against a different environment. Similarly, on the staging dock side, there's no view right now from the staging dock side, but let's say if I named my staging off properly, like a functional test versus a load test or performance baseline test. That way now, when I'm, as a user, when I'm selecting a staging doc, I can actually select the right one for the purpose I'm actually executing this test case. And then also to be able to balance the load, and if you have multiple coordinators, we also allow you to select this coordinator capability, coordinators to execute the test against. This was available through the workstation, but this actually we brought it through application, through the DevTest portal as well, so that more of your users can actually utilize these capabilities. Once, obviously, once you have set what you want to run, then you actually press on run button, and that would actually start the test case, which would take me to monitor page. And this is where you can actually see the execution of the tests which are already executed, the test results you can actually see, and as you can see, the one we just started is actually kind of in a running state. While this is actually in execution, I already executed one of the tests, so let's go into that. On this page, as you can see from 8.0, we actually added basically. It made it easier for you to follow through what happened in the test, right? It's not just the steps actually. It's what filters, what assertions, what data set is being read. So all that put together on one page so that you can easily see the execution of the test, what steps happen, and what passed and what failed, obviously, as well. Now, in this particular release, as I said, we actually added the capability to do the screenshots. You see the screenshots. So for this particular test, if I click on the screenshots, it actually shows me that at this particular step, which is basically just a get on the URL, this was the screenshot. Now, if I go to the next step here, the username step where basically it's actually what it is trying to do is it's setting this username. So let's take a look at the screenshot, because after the execution of the step, as you can see, the username is actually filled in, and we captured the screenshot, and that is actually shown in here as well. So not only you can follow the steps and all that, but also now being able to actually see the screenshots as well, it becomes really powerful in terms of figuring out what went wrong if your test failed, or just in general, if you just want to, if some of your users who are not power users and they don't know how to use Workstation, but they want to actually see what kind of test cases executed, what they did and all that, so they can actually come to this monitor page and being able to see that. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to Workstation, where we're going to see the other capabilities we added. So one of the other things from a JSON perspective, as we talked about, we added is the ability to ignore. So that is actually through Companion. So in this particular case, I'll click on it. Sorry. Sorry, I'm having some difficulty with the, let me see if I can, oh, it's coming up, I guess. Sorry, I had to switch the network probably. That might be the cause of it here. But I'm going to give it a minute. Yes, no, operating system is on. Sorry about that. Okay, better. All right, good. So in here, we actually, in the test, as I said, we actually added the companion that allows you to set the rules. So for example, in this particular case, what we are saying is that this path, which is the JSON path, from the root inside data object parent key. So ignore this when you're comparing. So that's the ignore node companion that actually allows you. You can add more of these keys if you want to actually ignore more. And as I said, the main use cases around, for example, timestamps and things which actually change from execution to the execution, and you want to ignore them as part of the test. So if you look at the sample XML I have, it has that inside the root object there's data and there's partner, and the partner has this XXX849. So now let's take a look at the assertion here. Inside the assertion, and show result. Here, the partner key, there was XXX, here 769, just to demonstrate that. So if now we execute this particular test script, it's going to pass. The reason it's going to pass is because we instructed it to ignore partner key out of the compare there. So let me go in and say execute. So as the test executed, it completed correctly. So let's just for the sake of it, let's quickly make a change so that it fails. So in this particular case, as you can see, the business model I'm changing as well, just to add another I here, and execute it again. Let's see. So this time it's going to fail. So if you look at it, it failed. The reason this time it failed, obviously, is we changed non-ignore fields, basically, right? That compare did not go through, so as you can see. So this way you can actually ignore some of those items which you know are dynamic across your run as well. So that's on the JSON assertion front. Then the second one, as I was talking about, the event handler, which is basically being able to tap into the events which are happening as the test is being executed. That is again done through the companion as well. So within the test script, what you can do is you can add a companion. That companion then would let you configure. And in this particular case, you can actually say what kind of event. So you can you can actually register for different type of event. Here I have assertions fired event registered, but you can also add more types as well. As you can see, all different types of events are available for you to be added into the list. I will remove this one for the timing. The assertion fired is the one we actually looked at, and then within the event, there are a bunch of attributes and properties which you can actually define, and you can add more, for example. So basically, this is tapping into the data, right? So when the event happened, which event happened, and then all the data which is actually flowing across. So what data I'm interested in to be passed into my event handler. So that you can actually configure from here. You can add and remove any specific data which you are interested in. And then at the last, you actually have the ability to specify a sub-process, which is the way we actually you are registering your event handler. So in this particular case, there's this JDBC process driver demo sub-process, which is going to be triggered whenever assertion fired event is being passed. And when it passed, then it would take the values from these attributes and pass it on to to this call. So the idea is that any assertion fired now within this particular test would automatically call this event handler, which is basically a sub-process. And within that sub-process, then you can do whatever you want it to do. For example, write to a database, write to a file, or do any other notification you want to do, and tap into the data as the events are being fired as well on the real time. So what I'm going to do is now let's quickly run this so that you can see how it goes. So the test executed, and I have assertion which actually would always fire in this case, so in this test, so so that we can actually see this behavior. In this case, if you see, there should be an assertion fired, yeah, so there's an assertion fired. After the assertion fire is done, then a sub-process is actually called. So a sub-process is called with that information, which was actually part of that event. So in this particular test, if you see there's no sub-process call we have, but we registered through the companion a sub-process that will be called whenever an assertion happens. So that way now, within that, and it's not, it's assertion and then it's setting all the properties that need to be passed over to that sub-process. Then the sub-process actually got executed and it returned some values, and then I think in the response it has printed into the output log here, but what was returned as part of that sub-process as well. So the major use case we have actually built this for is being able to actually write to your own database so that you can run or create your own reports by tapping into the data which is available through these events as well. So that was about the event handler, and the last thing I wanted to show is this dynamic load data files capability. So we have this data set which basically allow you, it exists already, right, which allows you to traverse through file names inside the directory. So here, if you see inside this project, I have a bunch of files here, and with the directory location, I specified that from this directory, from the data directory, get me all the CSV files. So it would actually get the CSV file and set it in the data file attribute here. Then subsequently, in the next data set, which is basically next level of traversing within on that file. So whatever the data file name I got, open that file and traverse through it. So then it's going to read one by one all the records inside the file, and once it's done with all those records, then it will go back and fetch the next file in the list and then go through that as well. So that way it can actually dynamically traverse through whatever the data files are. Before this release, we didn't have this capability. It was, the name of the file was kind of defined at the time of design of the test. So this would actually give you a lot more flexibility in terms of dynamically feeding in files to the test cases. Now let's execute it so that we can see what happened or how is it running. So as I said, it's going to actually try to get first file, and now it's actually reading through all the data within the file. There are like around 5 or 6 records on each file, but they have different values. So now it actually has gone through the first file, because there are only 2 CSVs, so it's going to go over now the second one. You see that the red values are different now because the first file had different values than the second file. And that completed the test here. So one of the things which actually is that one of the restrictions would be that these should actually be local data sets because you can have you can have these as non-local. So you need, I mean, in this particular case, it doesn't really matter because I'm running it on the same machine. But if you are actually doing it on the coordinator and all that, since the way it distributes the load and try to extract the value and try to pass it on, this dynamicness actually causes problems. So that's why for this kind of use cases, what we should do is we should always use the local data set basically there. Now, just quickly look at what that file. So as you can see, there was like 1 to 6 records here, and then in this case we had 7 to 12 records, and the execution also it read So from one file, all the 1 to 6, and then the other file it actually read all the up to 12 records. So that concludes my presentation as well as the demonstration for today. Please feel free to submit your question.
Thank you, Arif. Yes, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. I'm not seeing any questions yet, but let's give people another minute or two to finish typing. And but if we don't see any questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up.
This is Lakshmi. Can I ask questions verbally, or do I have to type in only?
Oh, sure. Since you're on the phone line, go ahead.
Hi, Arif. This is Lakshmi, actually. I mean, it's a wonderful demonstration. I think I have met you last year at the CA World. It was a very awesome presentation. On that day, I think you provided the REST API comparison, and today you gave us a very valuable insights into the application insight. Quick question I have at this point is, so you demonstrated all the, key capabilities with some exemplary, test files. Is there any way that the test files are, can be shared, or you just only considered as a proprietary test files?
Oh, you mean for today's demonstration, but the test project I have?
Yeah, especially because, I don't know whether the DevTest workstation or the portal documentation will explain all the step-by-step instructions to have a concrete idea of the newcomers to play around, to have even more in-depth analysis. Is there any way, would you be able to share the presentation as well as the test file so that we can execute on the local workstation and the DevTest portal?
Oh, sure. Yeah. What I'll do is once we publish this on the community, what I'll do is I'll attach my project, the test project, which we just went over in the demonstration.
That should be awesome, because yeah, absolutely. What we'll do is we will just download the test files and play around to have even more concrete, in-depth understanding. Especially, I know some users it should be okay. For the newcomers, I think probably they might want to play around to experience the benefits of the application test for themselves anyway. So.
Yeah, sure. No, that's not a problem. I should be able to attach this project file to the.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was, wonderful presentation. Very, very nice discussion and the presentation. We love it. Yeah.
Thank you for your appreciation.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Any other questions? Okay. So there are a few questions I see in the window here. This one question is: we are currently using 7.5 and would like to know if DevTest 8.0 can only be accessed through the DevTest portal, or if it is actually the client installed on your user machine. So 8.0 has both. So as the demonstration I just showed you, it had both DevTest portal as well as the workstation. So all those capabilities are available. And as you can see, what's happening is that DevTest portal, the reason we actually came up with the DevTest portal is the guys in your organization who just need to execute tests and look at the results of the test, they don't want to get into this thick client and which has a lot more capabilities, and they might actually feel that they might get lost into the ocean of all the capabilities in there. So that's the idea. So that's why we have both the capabilities. Eventually, as we are moving forward, we are actually adding more and more to DevTest Portal, and then eventually we would have once we have all the capabilities inside the DevTest Portal, then we can actually at that point deprecate the use of the thick client, because you might not want to actually install that thick client anymore. You just want to use the web browser based capabilities. Focus on access, comment that you do all. Okay. Next question. Is there any way that all the demonstrative examples can be shared? Yes, we would share them here. Okay, next one is demo recording is shared. So recording would be shared as well, yes. Our shared installation. Yes, so the Dev Portal is our shared installation. That's correct. So you can, as you can see, the projects in there, the list of content and projects is coming from what we call it Resource Hub or Res Hub. And currently, the way Resource Hub works is that those files are basically, as an administrator / senior member of the team, you can actually figure out what are the standard kind of test cases, standard kind of virtualized services. So standard content you have if you want to expose to your less technical users who just want to execute the test case or want to actually utilize the virtualized services, and place. So as you find out your standard set of content, and then you place it into the directory, and the DevTest Portal would actually read through that directory and make those available for execution or bringing up the virtualized services. Yes, it can actually. That's the whole purpose. That sorry, there was a question: can it be installed on one server and many users can access it? Yes. That is where we are going, that you actually eventually install one DevTest Portal and you have the multiple of your users are accessing that. Obviously, you need to figure out how many users and scalability and all that perspective, but that is the idea, that multiple users can actually use it. Okay. That was the last question.
Yeah, I think that was the last one. Just so everyone on the call is aware, we will post a replay of this session later today in the community. And if you have any further questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them in the community on that post. Thank you very much, Arif. If there's nothing else, we can shut down now.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.